closing thought. It was a year ago in June. I was in Manila in the Philippines, and I'd finished speaking. I'd spoken. There were several thousand in attendance. I was tired out, and a gentleman had asked me to go for dinner. So I said, all right. I'd already told him I'll be tired by the end of the day. No speaking, just dinner, right? Because I found out there's no free meal when you're in the ministry. It's like doctors going to dinner. They never have a dinner without getting consultations by whoever is sitting next to them. And so I said, okay, if you just want to take me out for dinner. So we're driving, and I thought, something is not right here. Matt was my traveling associate at that time. I said, I have a feeling I'm going to speak here, because why is he taking us so far? So I arrived, and there's about 45 business people sitting around their tables and a lectern. I said, this is no dinner. They're going to eat, and I'm going to talk. Sure enough, he introduces me. I have a friend here, and today's my birthday, and this is my birthday gift to you. So his birthday gift to them was me. So I start speaking. I said, this is no fun, Well, I did. He wanted me to speak on a search for meaning. And then he said, now that we've made this man suffered so much, let's inflict a little more suffering. Why don't you answer some questions? So I said, okay. So I stood up. And this guy here, Hayden Coe, comes up to the front of the microphone. And he puts his arms out like this. He's got a big span. And he says to me, meaning. I'm living with pain, shame, and guilt. Where is their meaning? And there are tears running down his face. He starts to tell his story of trying to take his life a couple of times. I don't know who he was. And all I said to him was, you look like a man made for the movies. I didn't know he was a movie actor. I said, you're talking about pain, shame, and guilt? I said, what you're talking about is so deeply personal. See me after the meeting. I'll talk with you one-on-one. So he came to the back, but of course, because of who he was, the people hovering over, listening to the conversation. And as I saw what was happening in his heart, I thought to myself, I don't want to be speaking. I didn't want to speak. I was like a Jonah. I didn't want to answer questions. I just wanted a break. God brings people into your life at a time you need that person the most, and reshapes and rechanges everything for you. I will guide you with my eye, he said. We embraced each other as we prayed. I knew God was going to use this man enormously. I let him tell you his story, except after he told me the sordid reality of what he'd come through. I said, Hayden, I'm not familiar with this kind of stuff, but I know a guy who is. His name is Sanj Kalra. I said, I'm going to be, because Hayden said, I want to travel with you for several months. I'll pay my way. I said, I'm going to be in Singapore in a few days. I'll fly my friend in. You both talk. I believe he can help you far more than I can, because he will understand where you're coming from. And I kept praying. I don't know if these two boys were going to get along or what. So I flew Sanj in. The rest is God's doing. And the same with my colleague Matt, who's a principal guy. I've got two of my former travel associates who are still on our staff, and my present one, Thomas. Corinne, followed by Matt, and then Matt got to know Hayden. These guys have been like a light in his world. Bright, shining lights. And no matter where you go in the Philippines, he's a head turner. They know who he is. And now they know what he believes and who he really is as a child of the living God. And I just consider it an awesome privilege to call him my friend. It was God who arranged that meeting. We had never planned it. Our ZIM today was planned by him too. In these 11 countries, touching the globe, having an impact through the literature, through all that's going on, lives are changing. And I believe we have only just begun. And I thank God for your pastor's trust and faith to come alongside us. We need it because the doors are wide and the opportunities are plentiful. We need men and women like you to come alongside and say, we'll hold you up. You keep running the distance. We're there behind you to help you take the headwinds and reach this generation for Jesus Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father but by me. He is the answer. And we are taking that answer to clear the bushes of their questions so they can take a direct look at the cross of Jesus Christ and understand the gospel. Thank you so much for giving me a hearing.
It's good to have him, isn't it? This is really good. All right, I want to tell you, he mentioned Hayden. One of the reasons that I wanted that this is going to be such a special night is that I wanted Robbie to give you an idea of the scope of the ministry. And then I wanted to show you an example that touched our church. 16 months ago, I got a call from Tom Randall, our own Tom Randall. And he was being arrested right then. And it was violent and it was bad. And he got taken into Manila and then put in a jail at the NBI headquarters. And I had been talking with Sanj. Sanj Kalra is a member of our church, somebody who came to Christ here and then got connected with Ravi in a weird kind of way. And so I texted Sanj and I said, you told me a story about a guy, Hayden. Can you have him go see Tom? And Sanj texted me back and said, I'm on it. And then an hour later, he texted me and said, Hayden's on his way. And so Hayden was the guy who was our hands and feet ministering to Tom during one of the darkest times in Tom's life, one of the hardest times in our church's life. And so it is a great, great privilege to have Hayden come, and I want him to tell his story, and then the three of us will get up here and tell you what happened there in the Philippines. So Hayden, please come. Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Hayden, so you know, Hayden is Filipino, which means that his primary language is Tagalog. So he'll be speaking English, which will be his secondary language. The other thing is that Hayden is I think I get this right, plastic surgeon turned supermodel turned actor turned follower of Christ. And out of all those, follower of Christ is the best. Yep. Excellent. Thanks. Welcome, Hayden.
Well, thank you so much. I have to be very honest with you. I really dread public speaking. Dr. Ravi knows this. Sanj knows this. I'm just about ready to pee on my pants. So you kind of have to translate some words for me. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat.
Good evening, everybody.
It says good evening. Okay.
He also said that I'm very handsome.
Well, Sanj and his family were just they were just in the Philippines last week. We were basking in the sun, enjoying the sun there, and I was just kind of hiding from the sun in the shade because as a cosmetic surgeon, I understood that the sun really damages skin and makes you age faster and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying your cool weather here right now. It's funny how we always want what we don't have enough. Well, anyway, well, the reason why I'm here and I dare stand in front of you today is because I simply love Jesus. And I want to tell you the story of how God changed my life for the better. And I also want to tell you a story about how RZIM was instrumental to that change, and how our mighty God, our Grand Weaver, orchestrated everything decades before so that I could also play a role in the story of your beloved Pastor Tom Randall. So I guess the best way to start is by telling you who I was before I met Christ. I was about I was about 8 or 9 or 10 years old when something happened to me in the past that completely separated the boy I was from the man I really wanted to be. It's something that parents here wouldn't want your children to go through. I was molested by a man several times when I was a kid. I don't exactly know how I was able to cope with that emotion and physical abuse, but I do remember thinking to myself that I lost something that was really essential to my being human. And I made two conclusions from that experience. One was that there's no more point trying to live a good and righteous life because I'm scarred and it's irreversible. The second conclusion I made was that I will never tell anyone about what happened to me, the disgusting thing that happened to me. And as long as nobody knows, I'll be fine. I learned that people cannot be trusted, so I cannot tell anyone. But the problem was I also learned or started to think that I could actually do anything, even if I know it's bad or evil, but as long as nobody knows, I'll be okay. And that was going to have a catastrophic effect in my life later on. So that molestation experience became the major thing that defined who I was, and it controlled everything that I thought, the way I felt, and the way I acted. So from that experience, as I matured, I began to think there's no God. It's impossible. And if there's a God, it's impossible that he is a loving God. There's no way. Because he allowed this to happen to me. I thought, I was sent to a Christian school, and we were taught that God is a loving God, but I couldn't believe it. He allowed this to happen to me, and I can't love someone I cannot trust. And so I felt that if he didn't care about me, then why would I care about him? And I thought also that life would be much happier, much more enjoyable, if there was no God to tell me what I could or could not do. But the problem was I still wanted to look good, and I wanted to look like a very good Christian gentleman. So when I was in high school, I actually used to lead praise and worship. In the morning devotion fellowship, I would do that every day. But the problem was I didn't really believe in God anymore. I just enjoyed the company of the people there. They were good Christians. So I was very polite, always gentle, always respectful. I made sure that I did my homework all the time so I could be an honor student. When I got to college, I played in the basketball varsity team, and I became a ramp model. I was doing international modeling in Singapore, and Korea, and Japan. And in 2005, I was finally able to follow the footsteps of my dad, who was a doctor. I got my medical degree. And then I became the president of the Interns Association in one of the most prestigious hospitals in the Philippines. But after that, that was about 2005. So I pursued my training in anti-aging medicine in Paris because I wanted to be the first in the Philippines. At that time, there were no anti-aging specialists in the Philippines. But before I could take the boards, I got sidetracked with a faster way to fame and fortune, and that was show business, the entertainment industry. So it's getting offers to be an actor, and so finally I thought, this is easier. I'd be more famous, easier money. So I accepted, and I became a TV star. And at that time, I was only 25, and life was very good. Money was very easy. I was getting more popular. I was really enjoying my life. But the problem was, every time I'm alone, I still felt this emptiness inside me. There's still something wrong. And so what I did was I filled my life with more frenetic activity. I did a lot of things, awful things. I was driving a Porsche. I was living in a Porsche condo. I was dating and sleeping with models and celebrities. But still something was wrong until I got into drugs, drug ecstasy. And that's the drug that really got me because it really lives up to its name. I had a lot of issues, and so by taking ecstasy, I thought, for $20 a day, I could be more self-confident, So I borrowed an identity from drugs, and I would take drugs every morning and evening for many years. But there are other stuff that I did that was really disgusting too. And one of those was I started also videotaping some of my sexual escapades. So that was me before I met Christ. I was self-centered, I was very hedonistic, but I was also broken, and I was really lonely. And so in December 2008, after my best friend's girlfriend confessed to my best friend that we were having an affair, my best friends conspired to destroy me and cut my legs from under me. So what they did was, while one person invited me to a dinner, the other two went to my apartment and got everything they could get, computers, laptops, cameras, memory cards, whatever they could get to find some evidence so that they could release this to the public and show also my girlfriend. They just really wanted to destroy me and teach me a lesson. They didn't know what they were going to find, but I knew. And I also knew that if this ever comes out, that's going to be the end of me. So I was so completely terrified. So what I did was I write my own prescription. I went to the drugstore. I bought 30 pieces of that sedative volumes, and I downed everything. Sent out my goodbye messages, and then I waited for me to die. But instead, I woke up 3 days from a coma, and I descended into the psychiatric ward, and seated beside me was my father. And I found myself trapped in the psychiatric ward, in the same hospital where I was just 2 years before the president of the intern. So everyone there knew me. So it made the whole ordeal more humiliating. But so after several weeks of detoxification, I was finally allowed to go home. That was Christmas time in 2009. So they allowed me to spend Christmas with my family. And every day at that time was really a struggle because my body was really still looking for the drugs. So I fought really hard until in May 2009, a stranger called me asking for $100,000 for me to pay. Otherwise, they will release the videos. So for me, of course, there was no way to find out if there were no other copies. So I didn't acquiesce to their demands. So on my own birthday, May 20, 2009, they released the videos. Every week, they would release one video. So the videos immediately went viral, of course, as expected, and everyone was really feasting on it. It started appearing online and then in street DVDs. It became the banner headline in all the major newspapers. CNN ranked it the #1 celebrity scandal in Asia. This morning I was just looking at it. I was trying to recall the feelings that I had. I was looking at all the headlines, all the things that they said about me. I was the most hated man in the Philippines at that time. I was banned from going to several provinces. And also at that time, it was a year before the Senate election. So some senators decided, maybe we can use Hayden Ko's case as their sort of the cornerstone of their campaign banner. So they unjustly, illegally brought me to the Senate where they publicly humiliated and shamed me. I was in the Senate. There were only 2 senators there. There was supposed to be more. There's supposed to be a quorum. And before the hearing started, somebody poured water on my head, and it's all televised, it's all public. No, at that time I was really total surrender. I didn't want to fight anymore. But everyone was piggybacking on the issue. The Board of Medicine, because of my immorality, decided to revoke my medical license. And I guess in one fell swoop, everything that was important to me, my fame, fortune, my career, my future, was all gone. But I guess the hardest the most painful stuff there was when my own friends, all of my so-called friends, maybe except 3 or 4, decided to abandon me. It's true what they say, that it's not the silence of my friends that hurt me the most. It isn't not the words of my enemy that hurts me the most, but the silence of my friends. I would always go with that. It was so painful at that time because I had nobody. So I was feeling hopeless, and I was still left with nothing. So I decided it's better to just opt out of life again. So what I did this time was I called my drug supplier. I got 20 pieces of that drug ecstasy, and I drank everything. Boy, that ecstasy really threw me into convulsions, violent convulsions, uncontrollable convulsions, that when the police found me, I was all bloodied and wounded, with my body rising a foot above the gurney. But as luck, or maybe as God would have it, they brought me to a hospital in the province where, unfortunately, someone was taping a movie. So again, my humiliating suicide was caught on camera and viewed by the whole country. This was 2010. So my failed second attempt at suicide started to make me think that perhaps there was a reason for me being here. Perhaps there was somebody or something or someone out there who had his protective hand over my life. So I began searching for answers. I started devouring self-help books and spirituality books. I regularly consulted with psychologists and psychiatrists and psychics and tarot readers and fortune tellers. When that didn't work, I admitted myself into drug rehab and stayed there for 4 months. And they were just squeezing money out of me, so they were just milking me. So I decided to go to Sedona, to stay there for 1 month on a retreat where I met someone who claims to be a Korean reincarnation of Jesus. And I thought, this is not working. So for 4 years, I was really trying to change. I really wanted to be a good man. I was really trying everything, but nothing was working. I still had those thoughts. I still had the same compulsions. I still had the same addictions. I kept on making mistakes and sabotaging whatever progress I was making. And so on May 23, 2013, I was ready to take ecstasy again. But on the same day that I had gotten my drugs from a friendly pusher, a business partner friend of mine called me and invited me to a talk with Dr. Ravi Zacharias. I thought, that same day, I literally had drugs here, and I had made an unholy appointment with someone that night. So I thought, well, I had read the name Ravi Zacharias rang a bell because I had read his book before, Has Christianity Failed You? Which I read because that's how I felt about Christianity. So off I went. I went there early so I could also leave early. At the same time, Dr. Ravi told you about this already. He had just given 2 talks that day, and he thought it was going to be a birthday dinner, and he didn't know that he was slated to talk, so that was really a surprise. Thanks for that gift. And so Dr. Ravi spoke about how Jesus gives meaning and purpose and hope in life, and about how it is very important for us to live in the truth. And after his talk, I didn't belong there. Those were all Christian businessmen. And actually, when I got there, it was very palpable. Everyone was sort of kind of asking each other why I was there, who invited me. And so when he finished talking, I raised my hand to ask more questions. And I said, Dr. Ravi, you speak about truth, you speak about meaning as if it's so easy to get to. But we've been here for many, many generations. We still don't know the truth. And I'm living in pain and shame. My life is like this. So my question became a confession, a public confession in front of everyone. I was really crying already. And I think Dr. Ravi felt my pain there. And you told me, Dr. Ravi, that at that time I didn't understand what this meant, but you said that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And it didn't make sense to me. okay, I heard about Jesus before, and it's nice to hear these words, but I don't really get this. But I think, yeah, Dr. Ravi, sensing my pain and desperation, kind of took me under my wing, under his wing. He talked to me and told me, we can spend more time with each other. So that encounter with Dr. Ravi was really the start of my finding Christ. He would let me know where he would be, and like a starving man, I would fly and go like someone who's very hungry for spiritual food. That's where I met Sanj Kalra in Singapore, who just flew in just to talk to me for 2 days. And Sanj told me about his story, and we had a lot of things in common. And that encounter with Sanj, I realized that I'm not alone in this world. I'm not the only one who had some secrets that we don't want others to know. Things that we're really very ashamed of, that if people find out, then... So Sanj shared with me how God changed his life and how God restored his life. And I told Sanj, this is also what I want. This is also what I want, also what I needed. So after talking with Sanj and Dr. Ravi, it was in Singapore, finally, I said, okay, I'm going to give my life to Christ as my Savior. I'm going to make Jesus my Savior. I'm going to do my best to follow him as my Lord. At that time, I felt deep within me that something happened. I can't explain what it was, but it's something that's beyond understanding. But I did feel something. Whereas before, just to wake up in the morning took a lot of courage. After that, I felt like there was someone, I had an ally who can actually help me. So after that, I began to really enjoy reading the Bible. I started attending Sunday worship. Wherever Dr. Ravi was, I would go. I also became particularly interested in apologetics and things towards the IAM because I had a lot of questions. And if I couldn't answer them, it was so hard for me to believe. And so I think after that, God was really ready to reveal himself to me and reveal his power to me. So January last year, this is, I guess, one of the best stories of my life. I received a call from Sanj. He told me that a certain Tom Randall was arrested for some false mistaken accusations. And I didn't know who Tom Randall was, except that he once played in the PBA, in the Philippine Basketball Association in the Philippines. So I didn't ask any more questions. All I know is that Sanj's a friend. I went there. I saw Tom. Tom thought that I was I also got arrested, and he goes, poor thing. And so I approached Tom, and I told Tom I was sent by CCC. He goes, how are you connected with the church? I don't even know what it stands for. Sanj asked me to see him. So that happened. We talked. Tom shared with me his story, and we prayed. We prayed together after that. And so after that, he was moved to another detention center. So I regularly visited Tom there, and I didn't need any passes or permits. I visited whenever I want because those guys knew me. Because those NBI detectives, those agents, were the same agents who investigated me before, so they know me. We have not a nice relationship, but we knew each other. So I was able to go there, and my experience in the drug rehab where I went to before gave me an idea about how the detention center is being run, because our drug rehab was being run like prison. So I knew that if I want to bring food to Tom, I have to bring for everyone, for all the officers and everyone else. So I bought like lots of food. Every other day I would visit Tom. But here's the thing. The first time I visited Tom, I had lots of food. Yeah. This guy asked for something else. The first time I visited Tom, we talked, we shared. This guy asked for something else. He asked for Bibles. He asked for Bibles. And I know that Tom knew at that time that God placed him there for a reason. So, in the detention center, Tom ministered or shared the gospel to criminals. He shared the gospel to terrorists, to rapists, to frauds. Before Tom left the detention center, criminals were saved, and God broke through. And Tom is going to share some stories later.
Stay right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, get us a chair. That's good. Thank you, Joe. Philippians chapter 1. Verse 12, here's what it says. I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak without fear. I think the greatest thing I learned this last year after going to prison, and while I was in prison or in jail, was that no matter how unfavorable my circumstances became, I could still stand for the Lord in my faith and love Him completely. And to me, now that I look back, that is a precious gift. To be able to love the Lord completely no matter what your circumstances are. And when you hear a story of Dr. Hayden Coe, he learned to love the Lord despite the circumstances that had come into his life and changed his life and transformed it. You can imagine when he came into it was like an office when I first met you. They were holding me and trying to decide if they were going to charge me because they were trying to figure out to have a case against me.
You were sleeping on the floor.
I was sleeping on the tile linoleum floor, and I was very sick. But when he walked in the room, everybody got excited. You know, there's offices around and people and secretaries, and they all kept looking. This guy came in, and I didn't know you, Hayden. I apologize. I should have known you.
Sorry.
Yeah, we didn't know each other, and I was unimpressed that you didn't know me either. Yeah. And so I looked at this poor guy, and everybody wanted his autograph. Everybody. And I'm thinking, oh, this poor guy's going to jail, and they're asking for his autograph.
Wait a minute. Do I need to